It's my privilege to have my brother, Dan Bongino, on the show, and he's got a fantastic radio show and podcast, The Dan Bongino Show, former Secret Service agent. And Dan, that's why I need you here to help America walk through this. The bottom line is you had a gunman on a roof in plain view. How the hell do you get a gunman on the roof on plain view when our Secret Service is supposed to be there and was there with all these failures and so forth? What do you make of this?
Mark, you know, we have one job, and I say we because I was there 12 years. I mean, this is a brotherhood over there. We were very proud of what we did, and I'm very proud of what I did. However, we have one job, and the job is you keep your protectee alive no matter what. Even if you get hurt or killed in the process, you keep the protectee alive. Now, you know, there's an expression a friend said to me once in the Secret Service that an uneventful failure is never a success. We failed. The fact that Donald Trump lived and the assassin failed, and on his end at least, it was uneventful because he didn't get his goal accomplished, does not mean this was a success. It was a catastrophic security failure. Now, there are some significant questions given my over a decade of experience with both Clinton, Obama, and Bush. So I've worked for, Democrat and Republican administrations, and as a lead advance agent for both Bush and Obama, I have some significant questions here. And I think the congressional committees in the FBI investigation needs to be focused on this first, Mark. There are 1,000 things we can talk about: recruiting, communications, line of sight issues, aerial surveillance, and if you want to, we'll get to a touch on some other stuff. But this is the primary question everybody needs to focus on. So congressional leaders out there, focus, listen, horse blinkers on right now, okay? Why was Donald Trump on the X? The X is where the protectee stands, Mark, or is seated in a limo or in a helicopter or in a plane. Why was he out there? Mark, there is a room at every single site for a protectee we do. It's called the holding room. Now, Mark, you're a very smart guy. We've been friends for a long time. You're a lawyer. You're never going to guess why we call it the holding room. We call it the holding room, you ready? Because that's where we hold the protectee if something's not right. Why did they not utilize the holding room? There has been no substantive explanation as to why in hell Donald Trump was brought out onto the X on stage to get fired upon when we knew there was a threat out there, according to my sources, at about 5 to 5:01 p.m. Eastern time. Well, that's a significant time, Mark, because Donald Trump didn't get on stage till after 6 p.m. So for an hour, you've got an open threat out there, and you walk Donald Trump out exposed out there to get shot in the head? I mean, in my 12 years of experience, I've never seen such an apocalyptic failure. And Mark, one last thing on this. No one's going to tell me, oh, you speak with forked tongue, Dan. You would have, done different. Listen, I've been in situations not as catastrophic as this one, where there was a security threat in Indonesia, where I was the lead advance, and elsewhere, where I was actively communicating with supervisors on what we were going to have to do to delay the president's arrival, because we did have an open threat. I don't have time to describe what it was, but we figured it out, and then we brought him in. This is just unforgivable, Mark. There's no real explanation as to why that would happen.
Oh, you're 100% right, Dan. And then I think one of the things that sticks in my mind is you literally had people in the audience pointing to the roof. You had people talking. There's a guy with a gun. You had people 30 minutes before talking about a guy roaming around. And apparently the Secret Service did have a beat on this guy, but nothing was done. Nothing was done. How do you explain that, or is it inexplicable?
Well, I think it's the first time I've said this on Fox. I mentioned it on my show. There's two things here. How did we not spot the threat on the roof is your question. It's a good one. It's a common sense one. You're thinking, like a lawyer, but you're thinking primarily like a guy who really cares about his country. Number one, there's what's called a PI team with the Secret Service at every site, Mark. It's a protective intelligence team. They also function as a CS response team, counter sniper response team. What does that mean? Often at sites, the counter snipers, the Secret Service personnel that have spotters on the roof, will see a threat. There may be someone who opens a window at a site. Now, you're not going to shoot the window if there's not a threat, so you have the CS response team, that protective intelligence element, go there and say, hey, listen, it's just a kid who was trying to get some air or whatever, so we don't, start randomly shooting people. What happened with the PI team? How did the protective intelligence team, one, not catch the guy going up on the roof? And second, when he was up on the roof, why didn't they pull Donald Trump off the X? Why wasn't that relayed back? Said, get Donald Trump behind the armor. I don't understand. And where was the aerial surveillance? You had no drone? Mark, I go to Amazon for $40 and get myself a drone. I'm volunteering to buy it for the Secret Service right now. Drone would have caught the guy right away like that. They didn't have it. The other guy had a drone, the bad guy, not the $6 trillion United States government.
Dan Bongino, when we return, I'm very concerned about this director of the Secret Service. Number one, reports have it that she got the job because of Jill Biden's office. Number two, she's not forthcoming. The slope on the roof, they're blaming local cops. They have like 15 cops on this local police force. It's a township of 6,000 people. You're telling me the United States Secret Service is relying on traffic cops to protect the President of the United States? I'm not buying this BS for 2 seconds. We'll be right back.